Good morning, guys. About a little after 5:30 in the morning, and the Epson is hard at work, working on some more custom graphics for some clients. And this set of custom graphics, you can see, is text. And the issue with most text when it comes to cutting on your contour cutter is always going to be the level of detail you're able to achieve. And this is where, once again, your Summa, if you can afford it and you go with it, is going to provide you the best cutting performance of any cutter I've seen, especially when you're dealing with text of a script nature, because again, we're dealing with more flowing and more compound curves, and you can see the text there, and again, the size constraint. This text is only 5 inches long. So to do a bleed cut, where once again, just to give you guys a definition of what a bleed cut is, where the actual graphic is going to look like it's painted on whatever substrate the client chooses to put it on, you're going to want to make sure you're using a cutter with very, very, very high accuracy. If not, you'll get excess white on top, bottom, left, or right of your actual text, and it'll ruin the whole effect. So again, you can see what we've got coming out here. This sheet is 15 by 23 inches, and we're going to clear $72 profit on this. Right now, this is being done in real time. I did start the recording slightly after we started printing, so give or take a minute. But you can see it all being done pretty much right before your eyes. And again, we do have our DA hot logos for DA engines. That one took me about 2 weeks to remaster. Give it that hot effect where we're going into a gradient effect with all the colors. You can see all that text right there. And if you were to try to cut that text out with a typical Graphtec or another brand of cutter, you're going to find most of the time, if you're doing a bleed effect, you have to have those machines dialed in exact. I mean, to get the real effect, most of the time, unless you go really thick or go outside the dimensional aspect of what your client gave you, that's something you will have to work with. I'll let you guys see how those DAs come in, because again, they're really, really unique in the color spectrum, and once they come out of the printer, you can see exactly what they look like. And again, we are printing on our Inkjet Glossy vinyl substrate for general applications. We use this the most. We do again have matte. We do have the HD chrome. The HD metal, without a doubt, if you're looking for pop or you're looking for higher ROI for my business owners out there, that's going to give you the highest amount of ROI you're going to get. Again, it is a true metal film over the actual vinyl, so the effect it gives you is truly unique. DA should be starting to come out. You can see the text starting to come out now. And again, I'm just panning slowly with the camera so you guys can see that gloss on the actual vinyl substrate. Now we can see the DAs coming out. Once you guys see these, as far as the gradient color effect, there's no doubt you can see just how vibrant that looks. And the whole idea of that color spectrum was to make it look as if the text and the emblem was basically hot from an exhaust pipe, where the exhaust pipe actually turns colors, and that was the gradient effect that I did. And you can see there, if I just pan the camera, the gloss on the vinyl over that. So once we laminate with the 3M8518, the finished product will basically look like it's been painted, and that's exactly what we want. And if you were to try to, once again, you can really see this text now, how fine it is. And again, we get a lot of clients that do a lot of text work, and if you're doing a lot of text work, and you're doing a lot of scripts and, you know, really articulated compound curves, that cutter you're using, whatever brand it is, you certainly want to make sure you follow an inordinate amount of detail to get it calibrated to do any type of bleed, unless, once again, like I said, you'd be going over your areas with a much higher diameter in order to actually have enough cutting room for the blade so it would not affect your finished product. The only issue is then you're usually going to exceed or potentially exceed what your client's dimensions are. So be careful with that. Not too huge of an extent, but again, something to think about, or at least let your clients know. Depending on the cutter you're using. We have a lot of clients using crickets and silhouettes. Again, it really doesn't matter. What really matters is the level of accuracy the machine is able to achieve by the end user understanding how to calibrate it and using the best possible system. That's why I say, you know, certain robots, printers are pretty general in the sense that, excuse me, once you get all of your settings dialed in, your color spectrum on certain graphics may change, but in general, it's going to be very close. When you're dealing with cutters, however, that's where things change, because again, calibration from the factory, I've never found it ever to be, you know, dead nuts on. Even our Suma, we went through and I recalibrated the Opus sensor on it, and it's worked amazing, and the accuracy is absolutely amazing. It definitely has the fastest calibration process to achieve the results we were looking for. However, usually, and GraphTech is another brand that I'm very familiar with, my GraphTech CE6000, it took me about 2 hours on average, and as I got better, maybe an hour and a half, maybe slightly over an hour to do calibration, to give me proper bleeds and to really once again go over the level of detail that I wanted that cutter to achieve, and it worked excellent. But the question is how much time are you willing to put into that? Certain clients will say, hey, you know what, I don't need to do all that. No one's looking at that. No one's looking at the graphics that close. It really doesn't matter. That's not the work we're trying to achieve. And that's totally up to you. But again, to me, I know what these robots can achieve. And if you're paying, you know, in excess of $1,000 for a cutter, for you to leave that kind of precision on the table, to me, makes no sense. But everybody's different, you know. Here's our Hartzels and our Hamilton prop logos. And again, you can see them coming out. And these graphics, you can see the larger ones are about a little over an inch, and the smaller ones are like a ½ inch. And these also have bleed cuts. So the smaller graphics are where you're really going to find out what your cutter is capable of. Because everything scales down appropriately, and as it scales down, so does your vectorization around your contour cutting. So be prepared for that. In Vinyl Master, one thing I've hated about Vinyl Master is when you scale down, all of your contour cuts typically get fatter, and it's just a scaling issue with the software. It's been there forever, and you don't notice it until you go to cut, and then you find out what just happened, and you're trying to figure it out for, you know, however long it takes. There's not much information about this online. If you contact Vinyl Master support, I've never been really impressed with their support. It takes them a long time to get back with you. But overall, you'll figure it out most likely before they'll figure it out. Unless they're willing to do a remote tech support session, which, again, even that takes usually a week or two for them to get involved with. But you can definitely see the Hamilton also has a gradient effect. And that's where, again, when you're doing brass color and, you know, colors of higher metallic spectrum, that's where you're going to find out what your printer is capable of as well. You can see our text, and those text boxes, once again, are ½ inch. Printer's finishing up now. I'm at 9 minutes and 30 seconds, and this is the print portion of the video. I'm going to wrap this up. We'll get over to lamination and go right into cutting. We'll take over from there. Okay guys, we have the finished products, and again, you can see just how these came out. Let me just move this over so I can actually show. in the light what we're looking at as far as detail. Now these have not been weeded yet, and I did that intentionally because I wanted to show you guys what I mean by the bleed outline. You can see how they're cut, and again, these are super small graphics. So when you're looking at stuff this small, half-inch, quarter-inch, you really, like I said, need to have your bleed cuts done properly with a cutter that can handle it. But as far as the finish on these, you can see exactly how they came out. And again, really awesome. Now, as far as detail, let's talk detail. To do all of these different texts took about a half an hour. And again, when you start doing work like this, you have to take that time into consideration because it's going to definitely take more time to get that detail that your client is looking for, and explain that to them. I mean, you can see here, this bleed cut, all of this is black, so therefore, once again, it'll look painted on once applied. And again, you're not reading double. He ordered 2 of Hat Trick, Medusa, Pandora, and Miss Congeniality, and of course, Miss Congeniality. So you can see here, once again, Miss Congeniality is the largest at 5 inches long. And again, we're only 3/4 of an inch wide, so that gives you an idea of just how detailed those cuts are. And you can see it all the way across. Desert Aircraft came out beautiful. That's once again the finish with 3M 8518, and that's also on, this has also been laminated as well on the text. But this gives you an idea of the level of detail that you can achieve with the right cutter. Or I should say, a cutter with proper calibration. And once again, once these are transfer tape and applied, they'll look painted on. Once again, we'll come over here. These have not been weeded yet, and that gives you the effect. You can actually see the light, the reflection of the light in the vinyl itself. It gives you an effect of what these look like. Once again, going from the gradient effect. The Epson's color match on this is really amazing. And then we've got our Hartzels and our Hamiltons. And once again, gradient effect on the Hamilton. You can see the shadow on the bottom. Your text boxes, you can see just how small those are. And again, level of detail, right where it should be. These move very quickly for us. Anything with this level of detail is very hard to get done with, once again, a different brand of cutter. Graphtec will definitely do it, but once again, the calibration has got to be right where it needs to be. So again, guys, I hope that the video has been helpful. What you're looking at here is, once again, it's $72. That's ROI on this sheet. Not much else to say. I mean, it was pretty quick. I skipped the cutting portion of the video because, again, it took about an additional maybe, I'd say 5 to 8 minutes to do the whole sheet, just due to all these small little tiny cuts. Not much else to say. If you guys do have questions, require quotes, consultations, you'll be able to contact us through the link in the video, and we look forward to hearing from you with all your questions. Again, let that text really speak for itself. It came out beautiful. Thank you all for support. Take care.